get right there because the trade deadline is coming up,
Mm-hmm.
and that is something that I know fans are interested in. Knicks fans in particular, they want to know what's the team trying to do. Are they going to make a minor move? Is it a bigger move? Well, let's start with Guerschon Yabusele, Knicks' biggest offseason signing in terms of the money that they spent. You got a player option for next season. I do think that at the end of this thing, when we get to the buzzer, he'll be moved somewhere. I don't know how much they could get back. Mike, what do you think in terms of potential return on a Yabusele trade and potential landing spots?
Yeah, Ian, look, with Guerschon Yabusele, when he signed in the offseason, a lot of executives I spoke to thought it was a legitimate home run signing for the Knicks. However, this was before they hired Mike Brown as the coach. Yabusele hasn't fit in Mike's system. And with that said, they are exploring the market on him. I would say for Guerschon, I think that his contract plus another minimum salary guy is something they're going to look to pair. And potentially they may have to give up a second round pick, maybe two, to make a move if they're going to acquire someone better to fortify the bench. Now, I think one thing that's interesting, and I'll share with you on your show before I've shared anywhere else, is I did hear the Knicks were calling not only on Jose Alvarado of the New Orleans Pelicans, but also center Yves Missy.
Hmm.
So I thought that that was interesting to me. Now, look, part of part of it could be doing background due diligence, but you don't make calls on these guys unless there's some level of interest. So that raised my antenna a little bit. And if you take Yabusele and another kind of minimum guy, you can maybe try to make something happen there. Yves Missy is a guy that the Pelicans have gauged the market on as well. He's played less this year compared to his rookie campaign with the new regime. And a lot of teams that are eyeing centers are looking at Yves Missy as a trade candidate. So something to monitor there. And I agree with your assessment, brother, that by the end of this trade deadline, ideally Guerschon Yabusele is going to be moved to a team that can utilize him better. And for the Knicks, to get a player that fits their system as they look to try to make a run in the East here.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, Mike, because, well, first of all, the Yves Missy, that's a great note. And, and it tells you that the Knicks aren't just focused on one position here as they scour the trade market. I don't think they're married to one particular player or move. I think it's pretty much wide open at this point. We talked about Alvarado, but Missy tells you that they also are looking at backup bigs. And the interesting thing there, obviously, Karl Towns, Mitchell Robinson, and Ariel Hukporti, you would say to yourself, Knicks are fine at the center position. So that what that tells you is, at the very least, they are looking at, I don't want to say considering, but they've got some things in front of them where they have to consider the possibility of trading either a Robinson, a Hukporti, or we'll get into Towns a little bit later. But it's fascinating that you mentioned that. And you talk about trade assets. Knicks don't have a ton. They have a lot of second round picks that they could throw into trade. So I think that's an area where when you talk about having to attach an asset, they do have those second rounders they could throw in, especially Yabusele because he's got that player option next year. But Deuce McBride, I think he's their most valuable, like, I don't want to say realistic, but in terms of player, contract, and what you could get, I think Miles McBride is probably their most valuable trade chip. Do you agree with that, or do you think it's somebody else?
Absolutely. Look, Ian, anytime you talk to executives around the league, Deuce McBride is widely considered one of the best contracts in the NBA given his production. I mean, this is a guy that eventually, when he hits the market, is going to command, like, at minimum, a mid-level salary, if not more. He's been phenomenal for the Knicks this year, really putting it together offensively, especially shooting the ball beyond the arc. Makes me wonder if he's a guy that could even be considered for the 3-point contest in the All-Star weekend, which time will tell. But phenomenal season for Deuce. With that said, Ian, the way that the Knicks salary books are structured going into the trade deadline, I almost feel like you have to keep Deuce McBride because you're trying to win now and chase a championship. And also, if, for example, the Milwaukee Bucks keep Giannis Antetokounmpo through the deadline, and then we have the summer of Giannis, which the whole league is expecting because then
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukee can offer a $275 million contract extension. And ultimately, push come to shove, we're going to know one way or the other where he stands. You can use a guy like Deuce McBride to potentially get a player of that caliber. Like if you're the Knicks, I understand like some GMs might say, oh, that guy's worth at least a first round pick, XYZ. The Knicks are trying to win now. It wouldn't be about getting a pick for Deuce McBride. It would be about making a substantial upgrade. And I just think his contract is so valuable, including his play on the court, that the Knicks really can't part with that guy, especially the way their salary books are structured right now.
Yeah, I see it that way too, Mike. A great assessment, and I do think, I mean, I've heard it's not a big deal because it's obvious, but teams, as they were in the offseason, are calling and hoping that the Knicks are open to moving Miles McBride, and I'm sure they'll continue to call through as we get to that first week in February. And the Knicks, I see it the way you see it in terms of if you're moving Miles McBride, it's got to be for a big upgrade, something monumental. It can't be for a back of the rotation player because he's been so good for you for so long, and you're trying to win today. You're not trying to win 2028. You're trying to win this season. And then you got a couple other Nick notes here because the Karl-Anthony Towns stuff, I know, popped up after that blowout loss Monday to Dallas, and it's been kind of hovering all year with Towns. He hasn't shot the ball like he had last season, hasn't looked as comfortable as he did last season, hasn't shot it near the rim as well as he did last season. And so you look at Mike Brown, the biggest difference between last year and this year, and you say to yourself, how is this working? And it's not working. It hasn't worked well, and why not? And I know that those guys, they talk. I know that Mike Brown, he's talked about how much he enjoys coaching Cat, trying to get the best out of him. And I just wonder how long the Knicks can look at this and say, yes, this could bring us a title. What are your thoughts on Cat?
Well, Ian, look, I remember talking with Timberwolves officials when they traded Karl Towns to the Knicks. And one of the thoughts that they had was, given his salary, they felt like it was an opportunity to get ahead of the curve a little bit. And they wanted to break it up into multiple players. And I think if you're the New York Knicks right now, I know a lot of people always wonder about whether Karl-Anthony Towns could ever be a piece that's used in a Giannis Antetokounmpo trade. I've personally never gotten the sense, at least from talking to my sources, that a team like the Milwaukee Bucks would be overly aggressive in trying to get Karl Towns in a Giannis Antetokounmpo package, theoretically. So to me, it's somewhat similar if the Knicks are going to make a move to what Minnesota did. Are you breaking up Karl Towns' salary, which is eventually going to hit about $60 million? Are you breaking that up into two kind of starter level players that maybe aren't all-star caliber, but could fill out the depth? And also, you would think that they would have to have either a center in a deal with Karl or something else lined up elsewhere, which is why I thought it was noteworthy to mention Yves Missy and whatnot here, because you can't go into, if you theoretically trade Karl, you can't just go in with Mitchell Robinson and Ariel Hukporti as your main centers because both have dealt with injuries before. So you'd be pretty thin on the front line. So, look, I think if you're the Knicks, certainly gauging the market and doing due diligence is part of the job. I don't know if that necessarily means that he's getting traded, but I think it's noteworthy because it's the first time we've really heard that. There was a little bit of chatter about even the Portland Trailblazers somewhere in that mix. I don't know yet how concrete I feel about that, but enough to share with you that there's at least been some chatter about it as a possibility. And you look at them looking to try to take a next step as well. A guy like Karl could make sense. So a lot of different stuff out there, a lot of talks this time of year, but it's really more about finding out who's about that action. And right now I'd be a little hesitant yet regarding the Knicks. I'd say it's more due diligence as of this chat right now, brother.
Yeah. I mean, similarly heard some of that chatter and I wasn't going to write anything. I saw there were some reports about the Knicks open to trade, talking to teams about trades and this and that. And so I checked around on this Monday, and everything that I gathered was the Knicks are not having conversations about trading Karl-Anthony Towns. As of Monday, it was not happening. So as far as something in the aftermath of that Dallas loss, no, that wasn't the case. I think if you see another 2-9 stretch or something like that ahead of the trade deadline, I think that's where you start to consider, if you're the Knicks, hey, we have to shake something up here and do something significant. And then, Portland, I think the Jeremy Grants of the world, the large salary players,
Drew Holiday.
maybe that's who you'd be getting back in a deal for Towns, those kinds of players. So it has to obviously make sense for you, but I don't think they're there yet. At least
I agree.
Monday night, they were not there. They're not out there shopping Karl-Anthony Towns. And let's see if everything settles out here. And Saturday they go and beat the Sixers in Philly, which would be a significant win. But yeah, if you're talking about another stretch like the stretch that they just had over the 11 games before the Knicks game, then you're talking about bigger deals and, Bridges, OG, whatever it is, it's a more significant deal. But right now, I don't think there's much there of substance.